Good morning. In 2018, Michigan voters went to the polls and passed a state constitutional amendment. Proposal 2 established a randomly selected commission of citizens, not politicians or special interest groups, to draw lines for congressional and Michigan House and Senate legislative districts for every 10 years. The goal is to make the process transparent and the maps fair for political office. So, who are these powerful commissioners and what kind of help do they need to do their jobs? And how can you have input into their decision making? This morning, we'll ask our guests, Sue Hammersmith, Executive Director of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, Nancy Wang, Executive Director of Voters Not Politicians, and Mariana Martinez, Director of Civic Engagement Initiatives for the Michigan Nonprofit Association. It's Sunday, February the 28th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Ladies, welcome to Spotlight. Appreciate you joining me this morning. Let me take a football analogy if I can here. Ms. Hammersmith, it's up to you and your 13 commissioners to score that touchdown at the end of this whole process. But Nancy, it was really your organization that kicked the ball off, so to speak. And had you not made that kickoff, we wouldn't even be having a game here. Would it be safe to say that you're going to be sort of the referee or watchdog in this process?
Yeah, that's part of it. So, I would also say, to use your analogy, that we leveled the playing field. So with redistricting, what used to happen is that politicians would go in a, dark room amongst themselves and try to carve up our election districts in a way to give themselves as many seats as possible, to guarantee kind of the election results, to put their own people in office. And that would basically rig your election so that, they would kind of know that they could get 9 seats out of 13 or what have you. Instead, we have the people now. We're going to have election districts drawn in a fair, impartial way, not to benefit any politician or party, but rather to keep our communities together so our communities can vote for a representative of their choice.
Very good. Sue Ann Hammersmith, and I know you like to be called Sue as well, and you go by both names, so we'll probably interchange them throughout the show if it's okay with you. Talk a little bit about this commission. Give people a picture who may not have been following this intimately for the last year or so. What is the commission? How many people are on it? And how's it going to be staffed?
There are 13 commissioners, as the Constitution states there should be. The people on the commission filled out applications for the process. So they identified themselves when they completed their applications, whether they were a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. And then an independent accounting firm selected 13 commissioners from over 9,000 applicants to be commissioners. So it's been a very interesting process. 13 randomly selected people, all with one goal in mind, and that goal is to make sure that they have a fair, transparent, and open non-districting process for the state of Michigan. And
correct me if I'm wrong, 4 people on the commission that have Democratic leanings, I guess you would say, 4 that have Republican leanings, 5 that are independent. 61% of them are 55 years or older, about 27% between 35 and 54 years of age, and about 12% are 18 to 34 in terms of the demographics, correct?
That is correct. And we have a very diverse group of people. It's very interesting to see all the different perspectives. But I've been really, really impressed with how intent they are on their goals and how intentional they are about being respectful with each other. And at the end of the day, when a decision is made, they respect the majority, the will of the majority of the commission, and they're really, really doing well at working together and making sure that this process really is fair and engages citizens of the state of Michigan.
The Michigan Nonprofit Association, what is it and what role are you playing in this redistricting process?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about such an important subject and educate people and raise awareness on this important process that happens every 10 years. And we have to ensure that our communities, their role M&A that we're interested in is ensuring that we raise awareness and education and reach communities, specifically historically underrepresented communities, as we know happen to be communities of color, immigrants, low-income communities. We'd like to ensure that they know about the process and most importantly, that they participate. So we are M&A, we created a cohort of 20 nonprofit organizations that are located in different cities. So right now we're working in Detroit, Flint, and Grand Rapids. With more resources, I'm sure we're going to be able to expand that. But for now, that's where we're working, which is where most of these communities are. And what we're doing is we're arming them with resources, that is trainings about what redistricting is, what process is, how to engage with the commission, how to draw maps, et cetera. So arming them with the resources so that they can themselves, in turn, disseminate that information with their communities. Our cohort represents a large, very diverse community that includes the African American community, the Hispanic Latino community, the Arab American, Asian American, and Pacific Islanders. But also the Bangla community. We know there's a large population in Detroit, the Caribbean community, the African community, but also the LGBTQ community, as well as people with disabilities, who are often communities who are disenfranchised and left out of processes like these.
All right, we need to get to a little break here. We'll hurry right back with some more questions, and we'll pick up on who does what and who has the ultimate power. We'll be right back. Stay with us. When all is said and done, whatever input you get from wherever you get, the ultimate responsibility of redrawing these maps lies with your organization and those 13 commissioners, independent, randomly selected commissioners, correct?
That is absolutely correct. The fate is in these commissioners' hands, and they do take that, their job so seriously. They realize how much time it's going to take, how much commitment, and their focus is solely on making sure that they're nonpartisan and they do the best job they can possibly do for the citizens of the state of Michigan. It does have huge ramifications.
And Ms. Hammersmith, does that go for the staff that you're selecting as well? Because I know you're trying to bring some attorneys on and other people that you need to be able to help work with the commissioners, making sure that they are as independent as these commissioners, that they aren't tied to any particular political party or special interest groups?
Absolutely. We currently have 3 staff. So in addition to me, we have a general counsel and also a communications and outreach director. And all 3 were selected by the commission. And one of their criteria was that they had to be nonpartisan. They didn't want partisan people in jobs because they knew that this job had too much responsibility, and they didn't want politics to get in the way of the work.
Sure. So what's the timeline that the public ought to be concerned with and aware of?
Well, the timeline is not being real cooperative right now with the census data release. So we continue to work toward the goal, though. And our first goal is to host public hearings throughout the state in order to gain input. And this process has to be done prior to the first line being drawn on a map. So this is what we're really focused on right now, is engaging people, getting them to attend the public hearings that will be held throughout the state. If we can indeed hold them in physical locations, and if not, we will have to hold those virtually.
Last I heard, you're expecting to get the census information by September 30th. Is that still the date that you're looking at?
Well, that's the last date we've heard. I hope it's reasonably accurate. But however, we were supposed to have some lines drawn by September 17th in order to have a 45-day comment period. So I think some things will probably get adjusted by the commission, but that's for the commission to decide how they're going to proceed.
And say you don't get the census information until September 30th, and as you mentioned, by the way this is written in the Constitution, the public has 45 days after you've made your decision to be able to weigh in on all of this. that's not the only thing that you're looking at, the census information, but it certainly is key. Will you then take maybe stuff from the 2010 census, and then when you finally get the 2020 stuff, make some readjustments? How will that work, or do you not know yet?
It will be up to the commissioners to make these decisions. However, we do have plenty of data that we can work with and practice with per se until we get these census data. So my focus is going to be in helping facilitate this commission to get to as far as they can get without that census data, and have everything in hand so then they can layer that census data on to make these maps for the state of Michigan.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about this word I keep saying, communities of interest program. What exactly does that mean, and why is that important to the public?
So communities of interest could mean so many things, right? Because it could be historical, it could be languages spoken, ethnicity. I mean, it could be so much. It's defined, but it also could be so many things for different communities. For the purposes of our initiative, is reaching historically underrepresented communities. It's communities of color, minorities, et cetera. Because these are the communities who have been left out of processes like these, that have left, and who have been left out of processes that are, statewide, Senate, et cetera, federal decisions, because they have been undercounted. We know, for example, the census has historically undercounted certain populations, and therefore they have been underrepresented over time. So redistricting, very much like the census, it happens every 10 years. But again, like the consequences of not participating could be significant. And so for us, it's ensuring that we reach these communities. So for the purposes of our initiative, is working with communities of interest that are who have been historically left out of processes like these.
Okay, we need to get to another quick little break. We'll hurry right back. Nancy, I want to get you back involved with this and talk about some of this past legal experience that you have and what role that may be playing in all of this. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Nancy Wang, you have tremendous legal experience through the University of Michigan and other organizations. Talk about what you may or may not have learned from California, who did something similar to this, and what, as an attorney, are you watching closely and perhaps very concerned with?
Right. So there are a few legal challenges. One is that we are still involved in federal litigation that have been brought by opponents to fair redistricting, our new redistricting process. We're still involved in that, trying to defend the amendment itself and prevent people from altering or really repealing the entire amendment. But that's proceeding. Another thing is that we expect from California and Arizona, that also has a Citizens Redistricting Commission, that these maps and the commission are going to be challenged in court. So there are a lot of special interests. There are a lot of people that have a lot of power. There's a lot of power at stake. So we know all eyes are going to be on the commission, and our job, we feel like one of our goals is to make sure that the commission follows the amendment and does all of the things that it's required to do under the amendment language, so that it's protected from legal challenges going forward and after the process. So its maps are upheld, so that it does do all the things. For example, respecting communities of interest and taking that input from the public. It needs to do that. It needs to respect communities of interest above other criteria. So one of our goals is really to be a watchdog, but in the sense that we're looking to protect the commission from legal challenges down the road.
What is the Princeton Gerrymandering Project, and why are you all asking people on the website to go to that and participate in that?
Yeah, so Princeton Gerrymandering Project developed a software called representable.org, and Voters Not Politicians has been working with them over the last year to try to tailor that software to meet the needs of Michiganders. So what we've done is, we've made sure that the tool is easy to use, that it's freely available. And what it does is it allows community groups to go and actually, physically draw the maps that they want, the maps that they say are their community boundaries. and then they can submit those to the commission so that the commission knows, what they need to preserve to keep those communities intact.
Sue Hammersmith, as someone who has run nonprofit organizations up there in Lenawee County and other places, as you look at this particular commission, what are you doing in terms of executive director to make sure that ethics guidelines are in place and other things to help guide this commission? Because if there are 13 people who are really popular right now in this state, it's those 13 commissioners. And politicians have a way of trying to get around things and find people and influence in one way, shape, or form, because we're going to probably lose a congressional district here. What's in place to make sure that that is safeguarded and that they are safeguarded from people who have bad intentions?
The commissioners have adopted a code of conduct, which is, it's very strict. It's very clear what they can and cannot do. All of their business, all of their discussions and deliberations happen in open public meetings. So anybody can watch. So they can watch it live on Facebook or YouTube. They can watch a recording on the Redistricting Michigan website through the Secretary of State office. They can get involved and give public comment. We want to engage the public and include them. And our commissioners are committed to being open, honest, have transparency in all their dealings and everything they do in their meeting.
We need to take one more pause for the cause. We'll come right back with some final questions. And welcome back. Ms. Martinez, how are you working through language barriers here to make sure that you're reaching all of the people that you said you're trying to reach, which is a very ambitious goal, but it certainly is representative of the diversity of this state?
Yes, thank you for that question, and I'm so glad you brought it up. Inclusivity is extremely important. In order to reach communities, we have to meet them where they are. And for us, that means meeting nonprofit community leaders where they are. And so the translation of materials is quintessential. It's extremely important that people hear the message in the language that they speak, and hopefully also through community leaders who can explain the process, not just us, right? They don't know us. And sometimes even the community leader, right? The nonprofit executive directors, for example. It's important to partner with community leaders and definitely translate all the materials. That's something that we're working very, very hard and giving, providing these tools, communication toolkits, for example, to nonprofits so that they can, have the flexibility and say whatever civic engagement that they're organizing, they can tweak it, tailor the message to fit their community. So translation is a huge part of that, and we're definitely working hard on ensuring that reaches them.
Sure. Ms. Wang, we have not seen the results of the 2020 census yet, but I keep hearing Michigan, get ready because we're probably going to lose a congressional seat. Do you think that's very true?
Yeah. That's my understanding from every source that we've consulted. That's right. I'm hearing that Michigan is actually growing in population, but not as quickly as some of the states in the Southwest.
Sure. Let me ask all three of you in the little bit of time that we have left from your different perspectives. When this process is all said and done, what do you view as your definition of success? Ms. Hammersmith?
Well, that's pretty easy. The Constitution told us what our definition is. And the voters, more than 60% of the voters approved it. Our success will be fair district lines for the state of Michigan. It would be for congressional offices and for state House and Senate offices. That's our job. We're going to do everything we can to get it done and do the best job possible for the citizens of this great state.
Yeah, and how much has COVID-19, how difficult has that made the process?
It's made our meetings virtual, but we're working through it. It's like everybody, you do what you have to do to get the job done. So we're having virtual meetings. It's the way of the world right now. So
It is. We're zooming. Ms. Wang, your definition of success. You started all of this along with your colleagues almost 3 years ago.
Right. Well, we want to see the people's will fulfilled. So, and that means to us an open, inclusive process where the public really feels engaged and welcome to contribute their input, and where the commission itself is taking that input and using, redistricting to preserve our communities, to make sure that our communities can vote for the representative of their choice, and a process that's transparent, from start to finish, where people really feel confidence in the process. And then, of course, we will defend the amendment to make sure that it's not altered in any way, and that it continues to preserve the voter-driven, kind of citizen-driven process that the voters voted for.
Sure. Ms. Martinez, your definition of success and what concerns you most?
Yes, we want to see the commission be successful for sure. And for us, it's engagement. A fair map means civic engagement, meaningful engagement. And so we took a model that we work with the census. It was an extensive campaign. We took that same model, we're doing it and applying it in the same way to empower our communities, or giving them the resources more, like in meeting communities where they are. And so for us, success, it really means civic participation, engagement, and have our communities be heard. And it's a big job. It's all over. We need all communities all over Michigan. So we're definitely not working alone. We're not working in silos. Collaboration is extremely important, not just on the way, by way of our nonprofit or the nonprofit organizations that we're working with, but also the organizations that are doing similar work that we are. And so collaboration is key, but definitely having communities be heard is what we look at success.
All right, Ms. Hammersmith, Ms. Wang, and Ms. Martinez, thank you so much for joining me. We will make sure that we put all of your websites up there so people can go there. There's a lot of information about this redistricting, and if you take the time to go to the websites, it's all up there for you to probably answer any questions that you have. And as they said, they're being very transparent with everything, so engage yourself. Thank you so much and best of luck. And we will check back in with you because we've got a long road here, but we definitely want to check back in with you periodically to see how it's all going. Fair enough?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Stay safe. And I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.